Welcome, fellow travelers. I didn't have an intro, so I just went back to what we normally do. What's up, Dad?
It's still more fun, man. When we were doing those first seasons, you were like NPRing the shit out of it, going, "Welcome, fellow travelers."
Oh yeah, I mean, we are the chillest. If anything, this is the chillest Adventure Time podcast out there on the etherwaves. Etherwaves? Interwebs. I don't know, man.
You surf the web. You don't surf the interwaves.
Dude, I'm sorry. I haven't had dinner yet. I got some special spaghetti that I got cooking. A new sauce with the new sauce and that spaghetti. I mean, I'm ready to go tonight. Once we get off this thing.
A regular Tony Soprano over here.
Tony Soprano. A real Jake the Dog type, you know? I'm like, get in line, ladies. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, freaking bad dog, dude.
Bad dog.
And in a movie, we haven't had a bad dog in a while. But Jake, off the bat, at the beginning of this dang episode, dude, freaking bad dog, man. Get in line, ladies. This rainicorn thing can't last forever. That blows. That's
okay.
That ain't good. That ain't good.
You said off the bat, but man, he does give some good advice at the beginning, because Finn is asking some hard questions. Guys, we're talking about All the Little People.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's season 5, episode 5. We should introduce the episode before we dive in, because the episode kicks off with, first of all, like always, what I love that you made me start appreciating this is the fact that we got like a nice like
the
cool
sunset
that there's, and it sets the mood for the episode so well, of like deep bro talks at the sunset, and I love that.
They don't do cotton candy hour. They don't do the blue pinks. Yeah. They do the like oranges and pinks. And honestly, it's a vibe.
It's a definite vibe. Yeah, but none of the like Twilight stuff. They get the full on like bright summer's day sunset. Yeah. But I love Jake in the beginning of this episode. It's not bad dog, because Finn starts asking, literally opens with like the hardest question, like, do you date someone that's exactly like you, or do you date someone that's the opposite? And he does black and white it again. We've got this back on. What I love about this season is the development and growth of Finn. He's kind of got the adventuring thing down to a T, and now he's got to get this whole being a teenager thing down to a T,
or even being a human, like being normal, human. Because he's had such a weird upbringing. Yeah. I can only imagine that's influenced him in some ways, and ways that we've seen, to be fair, and Fiona and Cake, the freaking Finn of this world is kind of distraught, kind of a wacko in a way.
The healthiest relationship that he's surrounded by is his brother, who knocked up his girlfriend and doesn't live with her. Like, that's the healthiest relationship he gets to see on the reg. So having questions like this is probably, and he's probably thinking of it in his mind of Princess Bubblegum and Flame Princess, which we see later in this episode anyway, is that he's probably got this, me and Flame Princess are so similar, but me and PB are so opposite. It's
interesting that he goes to Rainicorn first, though.
Yeah. I think there's a mentality. Well, we'll get into that like later. He's got a mentality kind of behind it. Again, I think he gravitates towards Rainicorn because, again, she's the only female in his life that he's ever seen in a healthy relationship. And so maybe that's why he kind of gravitates towards that a little bit from a psychology perspective.
Some sort of a curiosity or something. Well, Ned, you tell me, do you need to be more similar or more different to your partner to make it work? Do we have the secrets? Can we give the listeners the truth?
I'm with Jake that I think it is not about, I'm going to mess up the line, so I'm going to scroll to it.
It's not about the personality matricles and charts. It's all about the bumps in your heart.
The bumps in the hearts. And I think that's the right answer. Now, personal experience on my end, the girl I dated right before I met my wife probably was the polar opposite of me. Like, I'm talking super quiet, introverted, not very loud, like not a crazy sense of humor. And I was like, I think I had the attraction there off the bat with her just because it was the opposite. It was kind of each person lets each other be themselves, and it's a yin and yang type thing. And I think if you can find the yin and yang in a relationship of that matter, it absolutely works, and you get that. Now, in my experience with my wife, she's way more like me, like very, very similar, and that's obviously lasted 5+ years of marriage. So I would say that that's my vibe, and I'd say it's similar to your vibe. I feel like you and Allie very much match each other in terms of similarity and personality.
I think personality, we definitely have some differences. I think we balance each other out with our differences. I wouldn't say we're stark opposites by any means, but I think we play off of each other really well with our personalities. It's hard. As I was thinking about this, I'm like, I think we have a lot of interests. So not personality wise, but interests, a lot of similar interests, especially on the nerdier side of things. But then also being creative people in our own way. I think that balances, like, my creativeness and creative desires are totally opposite of hers. And I think that's a neat balance as well. But it's in the same realm of creativity, which is really exciting, But I mean, our personalities certainly aren't, straight up the same thing. I think I'm really, no matter who who I ended up with or am dating this seriously about, like, I'm a pretty middle of the road person with my extroverted, introverted feeling, all that stuff. Like, I'm pretty center of the road. So I think it could be, and I'm adapting depending on environments and that sort of thing. So it could come off as any way. And I think it would be easy to say, oh, y'all are similar with whoever that would be. But no, we definitely have some things that are pretty dang similar. And there are a couple of relationships that get put up in this episode that I feel like are either way too similar, and for some reason that seems to be working out. We can talk about LSP and Mr. Cupcake, or way opposite and still are kind of forced to work out in a way through Finn. I mean, it's interesting as we have a lot of examples of, and we're kind of taking it with a grain of salt because these aren't fully fleshed out. These people,
we're not getting dialogue in any of this. Anyway,
dialogue that are also contexts of their past. I mean, it kind of feels like they go in blank slate in every situation and then can be influenced through situational whatever to maybe try dating or something, but we're not seeing on their dimension what that's actually looking like.
And I've got some theories, which is an interesting perspective.
Well. No, but I don't think there's any perfect thing. I think you could easily be the opposite personality wise. There are a ton of relationships where someone's crazy outgoing, and I would just keep saying extroverted, introverted.
Outgoing versus more reserved. Or,
there's a ton of stuff like that. He wants to stay home, wants to go out. I mean, again, it's hard to give examples that aren't just the classic introverted, extroverted, because
the personality traits tend to
feeling, whatever.
Most extroverted people tend to be more outgoing than most introverted.
So A-type personality, B-type personality. We can even say it in that way. I think that can match and can work out really well as well. But I think you can easily also both be A-type, and that gets way too butting heads and way too on top of each other. And I think work out long term.
There obviously is a way to be so similar to each other where you're either always butting heads or you just get bored. Like, you know what I mean? I think a lot of people experience that as well, is that you are in a relationship with somebody so similar to you, so both type A, that nothing can be compromised. Everything is hard-headed. So, and that's why I think everything's fluid. Everything's on where do you find your yin and yang? How far can you be separated from how different you are and still find that yin and yang?
Can I ask, you can say if it's inappropriate or off the podcast sort of a thing, the relationship before Jackie, y'all were opposites. What happened? Why did it not work out, Ned?
I think I went to go see her in the college town that she lived in and stayed the weekend with her. And kind of at the end of it, she broke things off. I think that she realized we had done a date night, formal type thing with each other. Then a month later, I think that was the most in-person time we had spent. We were still flushing things out. Gotcha. And I think she flushed it out and she's like, this guy's way different than me. And I think I was kind of, I'd been in a relationship even prior to that, that was another person similar to me. So I was thinking I was finding it very refreshing to have somebody around that had like different perspectives and I didn't butt heads with as much. But it would have ended poorly if it had gone longer.
What's interesting too, even phase of life could be a big factor. Like there's so many like huge factors, right? Where like, I mean, whether you're long distance because you're going to college and you go to separate colleges, which is what happened with me when I somehow ended up in a relationship at the end of senior year of high school and then went into college with a girlfriend. And then within a couple of weeks, because I was, I mean, for what it's worth, I was doing a bad job of like keeping the conversation going, keeping it engaged. I was playing volleyball outside of Creswell, in between Creswell and Bolton. Creswell was the dorm I lived in, and then Bolton was the dining hall. There was a volleyball court there, and I spent easily the first 2 weeks of college after class all day. Like tons of people were just out there playing volleyball, and me and my buddies on my hall that I had just met were doing that. And I was just like, man, I'm having a blast in college. You know, nothing bad happened or nothing, but we just had a phone call, and she was just like, I think like we're both just like in different worlds right now. And I was like, yeah, we totally are. And it doesn't make any sense for us to keep going. We haven't been dating that long. Let's break it off. So that's what we ended up doing for the best, certainly. And I didn't end up dating anyone. Actually, I did end up dating someone come, I guess, Christmas break or something. I'm not sure. But anyways, so I didn't like have someone else I was jumping to or nothing. That wasn't the case. No, neither was she, I don't think.
No, but it's I'd say that's the other factor we're not determining with this episode analysis per se, is it's way more. And then I would say that's just the first line of the episode, and that's what we talked about.
Let's get into the episode. Yeah.
Let's get into it. I was like, oh dang, like what, like how do we get on that? And then I was like, oh yeah, we're just talking about, it's a very deep opening of the episode, and so I love that. And then we get our Magic Man coming into that. Yeah,
let's talk about Magic Man. He's so freaking powerful, dude.
We haven't seen Magic Man in a minute, so I think his little almost just like popping in, and then I love his line, and he's just like, I won't be back. Is again just the way he loves to just introduce chaos, and he's just like, I'm not even going to see this. It's like literally like putting a TNT in a mailbox, but like never watching it explode.
It's interesting. So Magic Man, I had some thoughts. I mean, he says, I'm not coming back. And that's the same line that Finn uses at the end of this episode when he's saying goodbye to little Finn and to the little princesses. I wonder, like, Finn was messing with these little people and affecting their lives in such a way. Magic Man does this also to Finn, says the same thing to Finn as he's leaving. Why is that? Why does Magic Man want to mess with Finn? What is the purpose of this?
I think Magic Man's purpose is to just cause chaos. Like, it's what he does on Mars. Like, that's why he gets banned from Mars, because he just absolutely caused chaos for entertainment. And that, like, just the sheer fact that he caused chaos causes entertainment. But I think Finn at the end of the episode going, I'm not coming back. Like, Finn caused chaos, and in his attempt to fix it, he has to step away and go, I'm not coming back. Otherwise, they're going to be like, well, let's listen to the God in the sky that like is apparently ruining our lives. So I think his not coming back is actually a helpful thing, not a chaotic thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I totally agree. I just wonder what Magic Man, like, I guess you have a good point. Maybe it's just a matter of chaos. But the last episode, we saw Magic Man have a moment when he was looking at the picture and he was like, oh, maybe I can feel love or something, and then immediately snapped out of it. So I was like, oh, this is an episode about relationships. We're talking about relationships at the very beginning of this episode. Magic Man disappears. It doesn't come back, and there's no full circle moment. And it's just,
which is I think is chaos, perfect. I don't want a full circle Magic Man episode here. I think it's, okay. And I love, and so in a previous episode in Sons of Mars, Magic Man sings part of the song and says, memories drift out in and out of my mind, and all the little people get left behind. So I do think Magic Man being a part of this is a reference to Son of Mars. Now, is this because Magic Man's so crazy, is this a universe in our multiverse of little like Wawa people being created out of Magic Man's memory of them?
Oh man, yeah.
Ooh,
it could be. It very easily could be, because there's nothing. We know this is real. They have agency. This is like real figures on some sort of a plane that we can see. They're playing through a what's it called? The mirror, one-way mirror,
the two-sided mirror,
two-sided mirror, two-way mirror,
two-way mirror.
Whatever.
Yeah, you're right.
But anyway, so it's kind of that concept where we can see them, they can't see us, except for when you interact, apparently by shaking them to get on their frequency, the same frequency as them, you can communicate. But then, even then, you can't see their reality. You can't see the beautiful cliff that Finn is standing on, super depressed and bummed out. Little Finn is at the end of this episode. You only can see what is the actual reality of a bunch of books on a desk and Finn's on top of them, sort of thing. So I don't know, man. No, it's so interesting. I like the idea a lot, though, that this is in that web that we see in Fiona and Cake of universes.
That's exactly why I think that this is a great episode to come after so much multiversal discussion, is that like even the episode that we talked about Booko, we talked for so long about how when universes become connected via portal, their temporal frequencies align. That's what Booko says himself. So there is something I think that Jake has learned through their adventures with Prismo and Farm World and stuff like that. Now that Jake's like, okay, like maybe it's a frequency thing. Maybe these universes are vibrating on different frequencies, which again, I think leads into what you were saying at the very beginning of this episode. Now, Finn's just putting two people next to each other, right? Now, does that time period that like, if he puts, who is it, himself with Lady, and then brings Jake into, or excuse me, Lady with Mr. Cupcake, and then puts Jake in there and turns him around. Now, in their universe, did that take a month for that to like occur, essentially? Yeah. Because they're operating on different temporal planes. That Finn was playing this God character and was like, I'm going to put Mr. Cupcake and Rainicorn together. And that actually played out in a series of events that took a month or a year for that to happen.
Yeah, maybe so. It certainly required really, really heavy influence, which is what we saw with Ben basically throwing Rainicorn into Mr. Cupcake's arms. And I would love to see how that was translated into their dimension. It wasn't as simple as, oh my gosh, I fell in your arms. I think it was so much bigger than that, so much more epic. Like you're saying, so much more time, maybe
way more even stories, just some sort of more,
so much context that we don't get in this plays into their lives constantly as we're on our own dimension viewing it. It's so fascinating. Reminds me of a TikTok, Ned, not to go on too big of a tangent, but there was this TikTok that went viral that me and Allie were kind of like, keeping up with all the comments and then the follow-up videos of this girl who had this figure that she drew, and she talked about, this guy's on a 2D plane, he's got these gems, but I'm going to take him away. And then like all the comments were like, you got to give you got to give the gems back. You can't just take him away. This guy doesn't have gems now. So she gave it back, but then she's like, okay, what I'm going to do to this, like this is a different video. What I'm going to do to this 2D guy is I'm going to turn this hat, like I'm going to rotate it, so because it wasn't just like a drawn hat. I think it was some sort of a magnet or something. And she flipped it around only in a way that a hat can move in the third dimension to give this thick guy a clue that there is a third dimension, there is more. And like the comments were so fascinating. And that's getting in what this was, it's just like Finn's influencing them and they don't know. And I wonder if they were starting to, like maybe Finn, because of how quickly little Finn accepted the fact that there was a big Finn that was influencing his world, maybe he was catching on a little bit, or like they were talking about, hey, this seems a little off. Why is this happening? It'd be really fascinating to see that on a different perspective.
Yeah, I'd say we got a little mini series that we could do over here about the Wawa people. But that would just be a alternate universe Adventure Time timeline kind of story, which we can now have 1,000 of those anyway.
Yeah, we definitely can. But we're not using any C-listers though. Let's take Tiffany.
Not using C-listers. No, I I love that reference
eventually, you know.
I love that reference because we are far enough along in Adventure Time, right? To where we have seen repeat characters. We have seen the return of Tree Trunks. We've seen the return of the return of Mr. Pig, technically, in 2 episodes. That the characters he mentions specifically, I think the writers are nodding to like, listen, we've created really fun characters, but we're going to use them again. And he says, because he said, they'll come out later. And I was like, oh, that's totally the writers being like, listen, guys, we haven't forgotten about all these great characters
still here somewhere.
And then they're here. We're just going to pull them out later.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it too. I want to talk a little bit about some of these initial pairings. Because
yeah. So we get to the treehouse. Finn's going to get hyper zoned out. Jake's cooking up his spaghetti.
And you have the idea of similarities and differences. And Marceline Peppermint Butler.
Okay, dude, it works. In my opinion, it works.
It works. They have connections to the dark arts. That's for sure. They're both in Slytherin.
They could probably both easily like slay a bunch of vampires as they could like sit and hang out. Now, personality wise, I don't know, but definitely with interest, I know.
But she's kind of dating her dad's friend, which is a little weird.
Okay, yeah, you are right. That is
that's a little odd.
He's already in connection with Death and Hudson, so but he's got red. He's got and if Peppermint Butler regenerates red stripes, then she's got a forever source of food. So
she does have a forever source of food, but I can't imagine he regenerates stripes because you see him later on, like
that's when she's just
away,
going to town and eating. And she doesn't eat peppermint. So I thought that was a little far fetched anyway.
Well, what the heck is happening on their dimension, right? When you see half of his body gone.
Maybe something. One of them, maybe you could go deep into the crazy demonology, but like. She's consuming him. She's consuming his life force. I don't know. You get crazy with it.
Well, what about all right, LSP and Mr. Cupcake?
LSP and Mr. Cupcake, which you mentioned, and I agree, works out well because they're both super into themselves.
No influence. There's no outside influence. They stand right next to each other, immediately are interested. I think you're right, man. I think, and maybe I said that earlier, but they're so into themselves. They're both so forward. You constantly have LSP being LSP, but then also Mr.
Just be
Cupcake.
Like, he's so hot.
Mr. Cupcake's like, I'm going to take off my shirt or whatever and show off my muscles, and that's like his whole thing. So he's super forward. Would it work long term? I don't think it works long term.
Chaotic long term.
Yeah,
unhealthy relationship. They'll burn down their neighborhood.
I think they're too similar for it to be a thing.
To be a long term thing, yeah,
long term thing, and also. The whole BMO and Ice King, they're buds. I don't think at the end of this episode they're like actually gonna be dating little Ice King and little BMO. I think they're just they're just buds.
There's some beautiful BMO Ice King interactions in later seasons as well. Not necessarily deep, but BMO's a wholesome character enough to where I think BMO doesn't care if the Ice King's crazy. So I think that that's a buddy thing for sure.
Yeah.
Now we got Turtle P and Zergiak, which I don't have much to say except for she seems to enjoy the spanking of Zergiak.
Which is all Zergiak's thing too, except for normally he was slapping them buns, and now she is. I won't yuck any yums here. I'm going to not yuck any yums, but she is. Ned, she is going to town on those buns when we come back around.
She is coming. She has. Well, and then that could. It'd be a statement. We're going to be over analytical of
left, right.
She has now absorbed his bad traits during their relationship. He was the one obsessed with spanking, and now because they started dating, she's the one that's obsessed with it. You know?
Yeah, Zergiak like introduced it, and she was okay with it, and got her hooked. I mean, you definitely do that with the person you're dating, as far as not spanking. Well, no, not spanking.
We've all seen 50 Shades of Grey, Russell.
We've all seen 50 Shades of Grey, which is obviously not fan fiction written off of Adventure Time, but it is fan fiction, I believe, or at least it started as fan fiction from Twilight. And no, what I was trying to get at, like comedy wise, I think is how I see it most. I've for sure picked on certain like comedy nodes or aspects that like Allie would be like, this is my sense of humor. This is how I would say a joke. And I, without a doubt, picked up on that over the time. And it's just natural now. Yeah. You know, I think
turns of phrases, what you find funny, like that's definitely the aspect of that, like kind of relationship where like, the things where you are different end up like rubbing off in good and in hopefully not, but bad ways that can. Bad habits and whatever.
Oh man, Turtle Princess, real tough. I mean, also you got Choose Goose, which is my like forever most punchable character, getting it with Lollipop Girl.
I was gonna say, if we have anything that is the adult tongue in cheek of this episode, is that they for sure are having a little threesome party going on.
They're a throuple. I'm not gonna yuck any yums, but that's a tough one, man. Choose Goose, Abracadaniel,
and was it Lady Lollipop, Miss Lollipop?
Oh man, the destruction, Ned. The depravity, the wrongness of it all.
And that's what, they center on the wrongness when they have their mangled bodies all together. And I was like, ooh, that was intense.
I'm not going to yuck any yums. I think my most punchable character, though, is definitely Abracadaniel, and we could just leave it at that. Maybe I'm yucking yums, and I might be okay with that right now.
Yeah. Well, the other, I would say, punchable character of this, because this is probably going to get into our deeper topic of conversation here, is Finn. But he's also not punchable in a lot of ways, too, because I think you see this moment on him. There were so many moments with the little people that he like blushes in that moment. And I think he's starting, he's not in middle school. He doesn't get surrounded with people that are dating, that are his same age, that are in relationships with him and others and cheating and all this stuff.
Well, he's playing Sims. He's playing Sims right now. We've all done this.
But I think it's also Sims where we did that for like some form of escapism, and I think he's seeing these kind of things.
Yeah, but you make them talk, you make them date, you influence.
But this is
world
something
around them
where I think he's seeing, like, okay, in middle school, we all wanted to at least know what was going up with the drama. Like nobody, there was people that caused it. There's people that loved to be the agents of chaos of drama and relationships. So I'm going to tell this girl that you like her. I'm going to tell her what you did so she'll break up with you. Like, and then when other people start viewing that from the outside, it is somewhat of this weird sadistic form of entertainment. And so I think
to this day, man, drama is interesting. There's a reason we watch trashy television. I mean,
I literally had like that written down, was that like, that's why we see trashy television as entertainment. And it's because it doesn't feel like real people, which again is why I think Finn kind of gets hooked on it to start, because he doesn't feel like these are real people.
I think that's a good point. I think it's definitely a Sims mentality. I'm playing a game, they're fake, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And eventually he realizes, like I said earlier, they kind of have some sort of an agency. They have some sort of a will or a desire outside of his influence. Mm-hmm. Though he does seem to have like the godlike Cupid ability to make the right things occur in order to kind of force certain relationships. But it's no wonder he goes, oh, little me, little Princess Bubblegum, little Flame Princess, like what would happen? Like what's going on here? I don't know why. I really don't know why he went with Rainicorn first. I think
my guess would be, my guess would be is because that's the relationship he sees as the most healthy relationship in his from earlier life. Yeah. So that one makes sense why he's like, she's nurturing. She's already with my best buddy. Like, why wouldn't I like her as well? But he obviously goes back in and experiences the hypotheticals of Flame Princess and Princess Bubblegum. Like, let me see with, me and Flame Princess's cute little cookie sharing. And then I'm going to start making out with PB. What's that mean?
I mean, both required a lot of Finn influence, which is something else that I guess we could kind of talk about a little bit. I mean, the Princess Bubblegum and Finn thing hasn't happened, probably won't happen. There's been a kiss or two here or there. It's felt like, I mean, let's just be honest. When you go back and rewatch these episodes, it does feel like Princess Bubblegum is leading him on some at the very least. Mm-hmm. I think all of us can admit, yeah, there is flirtation. There is a little bit of leading on. She knows he loves him or like loves her, really likes her. It's a little inappropriate, but he is definitely forcing that relationship to occur. I mean, he also does that with Flame Princess. And is that just because they're so different? Is that because they're so opposite? They kind of jokingly said he's a water elemental, which is not really the case, but he has to use, the actual Finn uses like a pencil to like nudge Finn closer and gives him a piece of a cookie to have like, hey, look at this thing that I have. We can share this. And that's all we really see. We don't necessarily see them kiss or nothing, Flame Princess and Finn, but they do, I guess Flame Princess and Princess Bubblegum do end up fighting over Finn, or we can kind of assume that.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, so that's the funny thing. This is going back to my original point. It's just a lot to conceptualize because you have to play out like what we're doing, to play out exactly what's happened. I think Finn is getting to play out his version of hypotheticals with no consequences. Mm-hmm. Well, what if Princess Bubblegum came to me tonight and gave me a massage and smooched me on the mouth? Now I would leave Flame Princess. Odds are he kind of has the realization in this little scenario that he would end up breaking up with Princess Bubblegum. First off, we don't see that happen on screen, but he's like, yeah, we broke up and I'm with Lady Rainicorn now. And I think that this is a really important part of Finn's development because Jake leaves him for 4 months.
16 weeks later,
and I think this is a kind of a metaphor for like Finn going through what we all went through in middle school and like most of high school, like not most if we were lucky, but well, I never cheated on a girlfriend, but like what happens if I kiss somebody else and then it's not a healthy relationship, but it's there in front of me, so I'm going to go explore my options. And so yeah, it's a lot like conceptually, but I think that Finn does this weirdly expedited version of like seeing how relationships work technically long term through these little people because things happen so fast, you know?
Yeah, man. I mean, 16 weeks is a heck of a long time. And Jake's really affected by what happened, what he saw when he saw little Finn kissing little Rainicorn. And as soon as he comes back, he's like, I'm back. I got over all that messed up stuff you did. It took him 16 weeks to get over that, hanging out with Rainicorn. And also how long Lady Rainicorn hasn't had her babies yet. It's a long time.
Then you can also assume that there hasn't been that much time in between when she's like, I'm pregnant in the Ricardio episode. Now.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter how long it takes for Rainicorn
who knows how long Rainicorns are pregnant.
So. But anyways, it doesn't matter. So, but it is really interesting that that really affected Jake, that seeing his best friend do that, even on a hypothetical Sims level, say you walked in on your best friend making a sim of your girlfriend and his character is making, like, that would be freaking
It'd
weird.
Be like, hey, I'm going to put a little arm's distance between
this
totally. And let you figure out what's going on that's making you do this.
Yeah, or I think I would be like protective. I would be like, no, you're staying away from this person I'm dating. That's not
And
cool.
maybe that's why he did it. He was like, I'm going to go spend time with Rainicorn and like, because she's my girlfriend. She's not your girlfriend.
But also he had to get over it. He had to figure out how to move on and forgive Finn and keep going as, best buds or whatever.
I think at that point he is starting to see, like, he comes back and he's like, I'm going to have to snap him out of this. Not, I'm going to go back and let him do another 4 weeks of this.
Yeah. It's almost like Jake, as they're totally not the same person, is almost a little mature this episode outside of his initial joke. He does quote JT Dogzone at the beginning when he talks about it. It's not about the personality matrix in the charts, about the bumps in the hearts, which is a JT Dogzone quote.
Yeah. And then all the books on the table are JT Dog's own books anyway.
Well, did you read the paragraph? And because it's one paragraph repeated over and over and over again. I have it written down if you want me to read it.
Yeah, I didn't catch that.
So it's JT Dog's own book. It's one paragraph, and then both pages, it's the same paragraph, just copy pasted essentially. But it says, now to be clear, JT Dog's own does not condone random flirtation with wanton babes, but rather careful consideration of which lovely honey gives your heart the bumps, because it's all about the bumps. Secondly, you got to remember to be smooth. No bodacious babe belongs with a bumbling baby beau bereft of bravado. Sorry, it is a tongue twister. Lots of B's. But yeah, I mean, it is kind of like a wiser thing to say. Like he's like, JT Dog's zone is not saying you should go out there and flirt with all these babes that like you if you're not feeling like the bumps in your heart, if you're not actually feeling like anything's actually there. And secondly, just saying like, remember to be smooth. Because I guess going back to JT Dog's zone of how he actually is, because babes want bravado and you got to be not a bumbling baby, which kind of goes back to, JT Dog's zone being classic alpha male type crap. Yeah. But still, I mean, it's a little bit more mature than we've seen in the past. So yeah,
well, a little bit more thought through, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, JT Dog's zone is definitely Jake. He's got to be Jake.
Yeah, I think our house canon is more supported by this in this episode. Absolutely. So, but yeah, it's. I lost my train of thought with that in general, but no. I think that's cool that you caught that, because I wasn't reading the words on the books and everything like that anyway.
No, I was just curious. I had to pause it and read through.
Oh yeah, but no, I think that at least after this all plays out, Finn is at the end, at least goes back to his hero mindset. Like, I got to fix all this. Like, I did mess this up, and he's not going to just throw him back in the bag and feel good about it. So I do think
got to help little me. Got to jerk him a little bit.
Now, and I think that we already talked about the temporal planes. Now,
you got to matter. I mean, the solution is you got to
jerk the little me.
Jerk the little Finn. That's what he had to do. He had to get on the same wavelength.
Russell's adult joke of the episode.
I'm not implying any dirty jokes at all. No, not at all.
Not at all. You never do that ever.
No, why would I do that? That's not fun nor funny.
But I do like the fact. The only problem I have with it is kind of, we mentioned it earlier, is that like he appears to little Finn in a cloud and he says, "It's me. It's your big me. Like, or it's Big Finn. I'm the one that donked this all up. I'll try to fix it. I'm not coming back." Like that. If you saw a big version of you, like say like you've had a bad series of events happen in your life, and then a big version of you appears in the clouds and goes, "It's my fault and I'm going to fix it." You'd be like, what? That doesn't make any sense at all.
The existential, like, I don't know. I would just be all sorts of bummed out. I'd be like, we're not the real ones. Like, we're these little ones in a much bigger world. Like, he just learned he's a grain of sand, essentially. And that's
But didn't real Finn just kind of learn that as well with the multiverse adventure?
I suppose so. But he forgot it all. He forgot all of that, right? Because
I guess he did kind of forget all that.
Remembers, yeah.
Yeah, very good point. I didn't even think about that. But at least I think through that he knows that there's a portal to a time room at the end of the day.
Yeah, he does know that.
But then his resolution with the women is just like, it's interesting though, because it's kind of, we have to go back to our theory about how much time is progressing. That he goes to Lady and Princess and Lady PB and Flame Princess, and just like, hey, this again. He kind of just goes, "Hey, this is all my fault. Y'all didn't do anything," and then gives them a little music box. So again, I think if it plays out in that universe, if we think it's just happening on different time planes, that it's kind of like during this time, little Finn comes back to them and goes, "Hey, I'm sorry for like how I bounced between you guys." And then they all go, "Hey, it is like not our fault. It is your fault." So they become friends again.
Well, if a freaking god in the sky told you, like, hey, like, y'all are good, like,
stop hating
forget it. It was my fault. I think you would get over it pretty quick because you'd be like, again, holy crap, there's a giant god in the sky. Okay, well, this is so minor and so unimportant what we're talking about.
Again, it just makes me want to see what dialogue or turn of events happened in between that and when he puts the little jukebox on, which I think if I had a true lovely of the episode, it's the little jukebox.
The little jukebox. Okay.
The little jukebox is hilarious. I love that.
Dude, I was trying so hard to figure out who my lovely was. I was like, is it Little BMO? He's barely in this episode. Is it Magic Man? Is it Finn? I don't know if I have a lovely this episode, truly.
Yeah, I had a hard time figuring it out, and that's why I kind of opted for the little boombox. But if I had a character, I think it'd be Little Finn. Just like at the end, standing on the edge, like watching the water flow. I'm like, oh, that's you're rooting for him. You're rooting for him, bare minimum.
I think so. Definitely at the end of that episode. I hope Big Finn, though, learns a lesson out of this and takes some sort of... He took responsibility at the end. I hope he brings that responsibility in the future and we don't just keep seeing immature Finn occurrences. But I'm sure we will.
Well, there's a great episode coming up in episode 13 of this season. So we're only about 8 episodes away, called Frost and Ice. And it is this exact same problem over again. Without spoilers, it's essentially Finn has a dream, sees something happen in the dream, and he's like super pumped about it. So he tries to make it happen in real life and really manipulates people.
Oh, wow.
And it's one of his like lowest moments in the show, just of like,
oh dang,
like he basically is playing out situations in real life how he played them out with the little people. So he's learned a lesson, but I think it's been all in a Sims universe, and he will have to make this mistake again to learn. And he does make this mistake again. I will say that.
It is hard to take a lesson and, remember it, not make that mistake a second time sometimes.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, that's fine. No, I'll wait and see what happens. Now, do you have a lesson for this episode then?
It's not about personality matrices and charts. It's about the bumps in your hearts.
Okay.
Don't play God. Good. And other people's drama can be entertaining from afar, but you always have to realize that they experience emotions the same way that you do. Mm-hmm. And when you get involved, like, you can actually hurt people. So the lesson there is don't fuck around with people's emotions for your own enjoyment.
All right. That's great. That's a good lesson.
What about yours?
Oh, Ned, you know where this is going. I'm sure you know where this is going. Dude, I had to.
Sometimes when you're feeling down, you just got to jerk around Finn.
No. Well, the punchline was not my doing. My initial lesson was don't jerk your little self. But then somebody else in this household said, but sometimes it's the only way to see yourself. And
so Allie's lesson of the episode.
I didn't say who in this house. Maybe it was the dog. Maybe it was
Bankston.
Maybe it was Bankston. But we got a good laugh out of that one.
Oh, man.
Good episode.
That's a good one.
Yeah, fun episode. I enjoyed it. Not a top episode. I think the same thing with the last episode. I mean, it's a goofy kind of... Well, here's the thing, though, Ned. There's no more Treehouse episode than this episode. Is this an episode that you really love?
No, Broskies. This is not a Broskies in the Treehouse episode. Like, I think Treehouse episode definitions are when it's like Jake and Finn adventures in small...
In the Treehouse.
In the Treehouse, but I'll call them Treehouse episodes if it's a Jake and Finn adventure in a low stakes, somewhat low stakes, and like a plot line, I should say, like the horse episode. Again, that's the ultimate definition, kind of.
We'll have to look up the definition of a bottle episode, because maybe that's what we're talking about.
Maybe, it could be what we're talking about. But no, I'm with you. I'd say that this is not like, won't make a tops episode, but I do see this episode again as we're focusing a lot more, not on like crazy canonical events. We will in this season, but this is a keystone moment of, again, I think this there will be more episodes about Finn's maturing as an adventurer rather than just him like slaying dragons and whatever.
Okay. That's great. Man, let's swing into Traveler's Log. Is that cool?
Yeah. Oh, another one.
Yeah, another one. We get a bunch of them. We're going to go through them now that we're back into the main series and not just doing Fiona and Cake, where it feels like only if it's talking about Fiona and Cake can we do it. But kind of surprisingly so, this one is about Fiona and Cake. And we're so recently out of it, I think it's okay if we revisit it one more time. And we will many more times because that's just who we are. We tangent plenty. This one is from DJ BMOZ. We've had quite a few from DJ BMOZ. DJ BMOZ is also a Patreon subscriber. I'm pretty positive about that. And if I'm wrong about that, I'm sorry. There? Yeah, I thought so. I'm pretty sure I saw DJ BMOZ on the Discord. Anyways. So she starts off kind of talking a little bit about the metaphors for like flicking someone off because they have 4 fingers. So there's a moment in the first episode where Fiona like sticks up the peace sign, and that's like supposed to be flicking whoever it was off, flicking the bus driver off, I think.
I mean, but then there's a moment where Pond Swan flips him off too.
Oh yeah, for sure. That one was a little bit less like hidden or
it was not subtle.
Censored. Yeah, and there were plenty of moments to like puck them up, girl, because they're playing hockey or whatever, and suck my nucks because they're I don't know, I guess knuckles instead of nuts. But anyways, moving on to the later section of this, also talking about the first episode on the bus. So also, I know Ned mentioned that he thought one of the characters on the bus was the water nymphs. But I feel like this character, assuming we are both talking about the green hair girl, is actually gender bent swapped Fern, and then kind of jokingly says, Furiona, Bernia, I don't know. Yeah. But anyways, the reason I think this is her is because she specifically mentions that her dreams are too messed up to even talk about.
That's just, and it's a lot like Fern too. So that's, good call out. Good call. I think there were so many Fiona Cake ginger swap ones that like it was hard to keep up with a lot more. Yeah, but it was hard to keep up with.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I'm sure. Is there something about dreams being messed up with Fern?
Yes, to a degree. Not super dream related, but what's in Fern's head per se.
Okay. All right. Well, then also, as for episode 2, I really like that they are trying to have Simon cope with being a human again. They're doing such a great job unraveling his grief and confusion as he tackles the new world around him. However, as for Finn, so this is that episode in the main world where we have Prime Finn, if assuming you don't consider Prime World being Farm World, as some of us might. Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence of that. Yeah. But Prime World Finn, I do agree with Russell that he has changed. I am honestly thinking Finn is suffering from mania. He seems to be relatively happy and keeps himself busy, but to me, something seems super off. Finn kills the bear with no remorse, and I feel like in later seasons of Adventure Time, and even in seasons 4 or 5, he exhibits a lot more empathy and doesn't kill recklessly. But that may be just me reading into it a bit too much. However, I don't think he is well. When Simon was talking about how messed up Betty, when Simon was saying how much he missed Betty over the fire, this would have been a time for Finn where he could have brought up Jake, told him about how he copes with his loss. But the two could have it, and the two could have a bonding moment where they could easily relate to each other. But instead, Finn basically tells him to not worry about being sad, which is exactly what he's doing or trying to do in regards to Jake being gone. To me, it seems like he is having trouble opening up and talking about it, and finds it easier to be in his manic state. Maybe maybe he has become a wizard, and I guess that's because of his slight manic state, which I don't know. Maybe he has I think dabbled in wizardry.
Yeah, I think that's a very good analysis because we didn't we didn't specifically talk about that except for the fact that Jake wasn't around in that episode, but how Finn's been dealing with the loss of Jake and how that actually parallels to Simon more than it's like him being his opposite. We think, I guess, because we just immediately missed Finn and we love seeing big buff boy baby Finn going around being crazy. But yeah, it does stray away a lot from how Finn has developed come the end of this show about the reckless killing and the endangerment of life and stuff like that. So that's a really good analysis. I think that's something
I definitely think something's up with Finn, but we've missed so much context for a big Finn throughout all the years. I mean, is there an episode somewhere after the finale where we have like a little season of like Finn being a little bit older, or is it just it cuts off and then this is the first time we've seen him since the finale?
Kind of.
Okay.
In Distant Lands, there's one episode specifically, and I would honestly consider it a little bit more of a finale than the finale of the show. Where we see like
spoil what happens, but just how
I'm not going to spoil what happens, but we see not this age Finn, but nothing that would have been a story or a filler that would have answered some questions around episode 2 of Fiona and Cake.
I mean, it definitely feels like Finn didn't fully grow up in this world, in Prime Finn world. He seems like he is held back by something, whether it's Jake's loss or just the way that he grew up being so weird and all of his influences being so odd, as we talked about with like the little people and just like how weird it is for him to experiment a little bit with what's going on, and how maybe his only stable relationship he's ever seen is Jake with Rainicorn, but Jake's never, like, he's not living with Rainicorn, like he's not there all the time. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of weird things that are affecting Finn to where he's this older guy. He's like, man, you just got to get out, kill something, like hunt, like light a fire, or like sit by the bonfire. That's the way to do it. That's how you get over, being bummed and not adventuring with your best bud anymore. But also the loss of Jake is probably, okay, and this is me talking without having seen what happens to Jake. Is it like if it's old age, that's way different than what happened to Betty, But if it's not old age and it's just he's dealt with a different way than Simon has.
And that's one of those things that's not answered of like, how does Jake die at all?
So, interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, I think just, interesting point to bring up about Finn of like kind of the growing up and maturing aspect of it, that he does so much of it emotionally through the core show that, at the end of the day, it does seem like there's a gap of where he could have been in this episode. But then also in the second episode of Fiona and Cake, just also nice to see that Finn is still somewhat of a whimsical adventurer and doesn't take life too seriously. If they had gone too far off in that direction and had Finn as, the businessman in the Candy Kingdom running the finances, like that would have been out of character. It would have been out of character too. So,
well, what do you do with a guy who's spent his youth killing things and jumping around and being a hero for an entire kingdom?
That's why I said in more of a spinoff, I would love more old man Finn stories if we're going to make it violent and bloody and what leads up to the death of Jake and stuff like that too. I think that's where
especially
the spinoff
Jeremy Shada gets older and stuff, and his voice gets more gruff. That'd be so great.
Gruffly,
gruffly, manly bravado as that starts to occur.
But again, thank you, TJB Mosey, for the analysis, because I think that was good deep thought, and I don't want to go too far into it because we're going to do a part 11 of Fiona and Cake if we get too much into that.
Sure, without being as familiar with it. I mean, it's been several weeks since we watched that episode, so man, that's cool though. I like it. Thank you so much for chiming in. The Traveler's Log, NEA.travelerslog@gmail.com. Sorry, I know me and Ned are both exhausted at this point, so I hope it hasn't come off too obvious in this podcast. I certainly know as I was reading someone else's like how they write and stuff, I was just like, oh man, I'm stumbling. But
picking up on people's turns of phrases when you're tired is like, what?
For sure. I always read in my own voice. It's really hard for like reading out loud and reading someone else's like voice, as they type out stuff. But anyways, y'all, thank you so much. You can check us out. We got a Patreon at patreon.com/neverendingadventure podcast. As we mentioned last episode, we are creeping up on being halfway funded for the production of the podcast. And as more people will subscribe, if we ever get past fully like financing the production of the podcast and taking that burden off of me and Ned, we will definitely be investing those funds back into the podcast with other cool things. And, you know, like we love that we have stickers that we can give you if you'll do a review for the podcast on, what is it, Apple Podcasts or iTunes or even a Spotify, like 5-star review. Like, man, we'll happily send you one. Just send us a screenshot. Let us know you did it. Like that sort of a thing. Like that's only possible because, you know, of the funds that me and Ned have invested into the podcast. So we really appreciate y'all like helping us out with that. It means a lot, seriously. But yeah, check us out. Also, if you haven't, Instagram, Never Ending Adventure Podcast, TikTok at Never Ending Adventure Cast, Twitter at NEA_podcast. Ned and I are always on those platforms, like happy to chat or whatever. But the best chats definitely happen on the Patreon Discord. So just saying, all tiers, actually, by the way. The $1 tier, if you're a $1 subscriber for the podcast, you also get access to the Discord, which is something that now that it's been out for a bit, me and Ned felt it was time to allow all of the
open
special travelers to do it. Yeah, totally. But yeah, thank you so much. Ned, do you have any recs for us?
Yeah, I've got a good rec of a movie that I watched for a second time this week, but got to watch it in a new light and significantly more enjoyed it. It's Nightcrawler with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, okay. Isn't
really good?
Isn't that like a thriller, like creepy?
No, so it's not necessarily. I wouldn't call it necessarily creepy. It's more of a psychological. Again, it's a thriller, but it's not like anything horror or like thriller related. It's about pretty much a guy who is, I would say, like borderline autistic and psychotic at the same time, pretty much. That, and then he is like a pickpocket and scrapes by, but then realizes that he would be really good at night crawling, which is doing like nighttime journalism, car crashes and stuff like that. And he does a lot of effed up things doing that per se. But really, again, just kind of watching it more as like seeing how crazy he actually is. And Jake Gyllenhaal plays a great, crazy person. Highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah. I tried to watch that one time and I got halfway through it and I just went, gosh, I'm just not in the right headspace for this movie. So it's a heavy one. I think the
first time I was expecting that kind of psychotic, like Seven, or like a murder thriller. And it wasn't like that at all. And I was like, what am I watching? Like, what's happening? And I went into it this time way more open-minded.
Okay. Well, that's
what about you? What's your rec?
Oh man, I'm going to have to come up with a rec. Can I rec sushi? Is that weird?
Yeah, no. I wrecked grilled cheese last week, so I think you can wreck sushi.
I think last week I said I'm not going to wreck, or I wasn't going to wreck sushi, but I'm going to wreck sushi because for my 30th birthday on Monday, me and Allie and my old roommate and his girlfriend went out and got sushi at Bite a Bit here in Nashville. And it was, maybe I'm wrecking Bite a Bit. It's a Thai food place it's Thai and sushi. And it's really good. I finally found, my only issue with it was that I have two issues. One, Village Pub's right there, and it's so hard not to just go to the Village Pub and get those good pretzels. But I finally found a sushi roll that I like there, and that makes Bite a Bit so much better for me. It's the, if you happen to be in Nashville, I don't know if this is the place you should go because there's so many better Nashville like restaurants. But anyways, it's like Marine Boy, I think is what it is. But it was like spicy tuna, cucumber. Then on the outside, there's salmon and also cream cheese on the inside. And I'm all about like all of that. So it was good.
Yeah. No, good. Get you more on a sushi train because I love it. I'm in the raw fish. Like, give me the sashimi up and down.
Oh man, one day I'll know I made it when I can go to sushi once a week and not feel like, oh man, I'm making bad financial decisions.
Hey, we love the sushi, but it's so dumb that like Uber Eating it in Atlanta will be like, great, we each have a roll and a half and got $0 delivery fees and got 20% discount, and we still spent $55. And you're like, what the heck just happened?
Well, my buddy treated us to some sake, and it was a good time. seriously enjoyed it.
Loves me some sake.
Yeah, man. All right. Thank you so much. We'll be back next week in just another episode. I guess we're talking about Jake's little boys next episode.
I know. We got a good. That's why I feel like I've been waiting on this one because I've referenced the episode we're going to talk about next week so many times in terms of just wait. We're going to see Jake's flaws. We're going to see a lot of his dad issues. Again, we saw them a little bit in Dad's Dungeon, and I think this comes out a lot in this one for sure.
Okay. Well, I think you've said it many a time. This is a show about bad fathers. So we'll see how that's been translated another generation down to Jake and his children. Hopefully it's not too bad.
No, it's not. It's not too bad, but it's not too good to start off. So
all right. We'll talk about it. We'll see.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, y'all have a good week and everybody party forever.
I looked at you guys.